That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, let's go through and let's talk about our top 24 running backs for this week. And these rankings look crazy. Like, I really think that these are going to be the craziest set of rankings that we have all season. You got some pretty nice matchups for some running backs at the top. We got some pretty difficult ones as well. But nonetheless, before we get into anything, we have to give away some free Fantasy Flock Network hats every single video for the people going down there, dropping that like, leaving a comment. And our winners for this one are going to be the Roaming Savage as well as Paul. Thank y'all so much for supporting the channel. And if you win that Fantasy Flock Network hat, just please send me the email ASAP with your physical address. That way I can get that hat out to you. And of course, before we dive into it, we have to give a shout out to Underdog Fantasy, the sponsor of this video, the sponsor of the entire channel. And over there on Underdog Fantasy, they offer player props every single week you can go through and check out. If you want to go draft a team just for this week, if you want to go take Jonathan Taylor number 1 overall, you can do that on Underdog Fantasy, where they have weekly drafts. You can draft the team just for week 13, available in damn near every state, not available in Washington State, Nevada, Wyoming, Hawaii, and maybe one other small one. They're now available in Louisiana, so pretty much everywhere. And of course, when you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So please take advantage of that. And yeah, that should be it. Let's get this tier list going. Let's start it off with a running back in his own tier at the very top, the one and only Jonathan Taylor. I mean, with Taylor, yes, we had him ranked as the running back 1 this past week. And no, he was not the running back 1. It was a brutal matchup that he had against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the toughest run defenses in the NFL. I mean, we had to rank him running back 1 because you know what we said? After you had that Buffalo Bills performance where Jonathan Taylor came out and had 32 rushing attempts against that Bills defense, 185 rushing yards, and at the same time, 5 total touchdowns, I had to come out and say, okay, 53 points to Jonathan Taylor. We are to the point of the season where if I rank anybody other than Jonathan Taylor at running back 1 overall, you have to go through and you have to unsubscribe to the channel. I mean, Jonathan Taylor clearly a tier ahead of everybody at this point, not to mention that he's going up against the Houston Texans this week. Now, this is going to be an infinitely better matchup than what we actually have against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past week, where Jonathan Taylor was still fine. This offense was still fine overall. I mean, this is going to be a game where you'd imagine that, you have the Indianapolis Colts leading by 10 plus points easily, like pulling up the spread that we actually have on this game right now. Oh my gosh. They have the spread at 7.5. I would definitely be taking the Colts minus 7.5. I think this game's not even going to be that close. Jonathan Taylor, running back 1 overall, nothing to say here. Now let's go down to our second tier. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor is going to be in his own tier. And our next running back, I am so damn excited to put him here. Joe Mixon, coming off a week where he had 32 fantasy points, coming off a 2-week span where, 30 carries, 28 carries. 6 rushing touchdowns over the past 3 weeks for Joe Mixon. This is a running back that over the past 2 weeks has had 62 total touches. There's nothing to say about Mixon. We've said it. The entire season, we said it coming into the season. Seems like every damn video we made coming into the season was saying, Joe Mixon in the second round, Joe Mixon in the second round, Joe Mixon in the second round. This is going to be a much better offense. Now he has the role in the receiving game, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. We all know it. And it's a great matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers this week. The Chargers have had one of the worst run defenses so far this season. They just gave up, over 100 total yards to Javonte Williams. And Javonte Williams wasn't even seeing every touch in that backfield, which Joe Mixon is going to. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a no-brainer spot to have Joe Mixon at our running back 2. And now this is where we're going to get a lot of hate for this video. And trust me, I get it. I understand it. I know everybody and their mom wants us to have Austin Ekeler here. It's a pretty tough matchup for Ekeler going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. And you know who doesn't have a tough matchup? And let's go through, let's kind of just tease this a little bit. This is a running back that the last 2 weeks we saw him as the starting running back in his offense. He had over 30 touches in both weeks. Every time he has been the feature down running back in his offense this season, he has had over 30 touches. He had 26 carries, 8 targets out of the backfield back in week 3 against the Seattle Seahawks. And in week 5 against the Detroit Lions, his matchup this week, 25 carries, 113 rushing yards, 7 receptions 40 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown to go along with it. We are going to have Alexander Mattison as our running back 3. I know everybody's going to hate this, but you remove Dalvin Cook from this offense. Alexander Mattison does not only take that Dalvin Cook role, but Alexander Mattison has a larger role than Dalvin Cook, because there won't be a secondary running back here that's going to be siphoning off, 15 to 20% of the touches in this backfield for the Minnesota Vikings. And knowing that they have a beautiful matchup against the Detroit Lions, where they will go through and they will just lean on the run, Alexander Mattison has the highest floor of essentially any running back. And at the same time, I think he has a ceiling to get to 35 fantasy points this contest. If he's consistently getting to 30 touches every single week he starts, which of course is almost impossible to project, but it's in the range of outcomes for him to come away with just say the usual 25 carries and 8 targets out of. He's the running back 3. We'll go to the running back 4, Austin Ekeler. Of course, Austin Ekeler, you prefer him over Alexander Mattison. He's a better talent. You prefer him 9 out of 10 weeks. Just the issue is it's going to be a tougher matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. We've seen this Bengals defense actually be somewhat impressive as of late. And with Austin Ekeler, he's just not going to see the same level of usage as Alexander Mattison will in Minnesota. With Ekeler, this isn't to talk poorly on him at all. He's still in this same tier. He's still a top 5 running back for us this week. Y'all know we've loved Ekeler for a very long time now. 2 weeks ago against the Steelers, he dropped 41 fantasy points. He had 11 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns. 6 receptions, 2 receiving touchdowns. Of course, that touchdown rate's no way that's going to sustain. He's had 14 total touchdowns and not even 200 touches this season. That touchdown rate will come down just some, but nonetheless, with Austin Ekeler, this is a running back that you definitely think that you should be raising your expectations overall from the rest of the season standpoint. Just this 1 week, give me Alexander Mattison. And now our last running back in this tier will be Leonard Fournette going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Fournette will be our running back 5 this week. It's going to be a great matchup against the Falcons. Right now the Falcons have had a very bad defense against the run so far, a very bad defense overall. We know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should lead this game the majority of the time. And with Leonard Fournette, he's been a running back that's averaged over 20 fantasy points per game in weeks 4 through 12. He's coming off a week with 4 total touchdowns with 17 carries, 8 targets out of the backfield as well, playing damn near every single snap for one of the most productive offenses in the NFL. Top 5 running back, nothing to really say. Let's go down to our next tier, leading it off with the running back that is usually way higher than this for us. It's going to be Najee Harris. Now, the issue with Harris is, the offense in Pittsburgh is just atrocious. And I wanted to come through and say, you know what? Of course you were expecting the Pittsburgh Steelers offense to be horrible, but still Najee Harris has such a high floor and ceiling combination whenever he's going to be consistently getting to 20 carries every single week and also 7 to 8 targets out of the backfield. That volume is so damn safe to have him elevate as a mid running back 1 every week. He's still going to be the running back 6, but I think now you kind of see the floor being a little bit lower just given how bad this offense is. And also with Najee Harris, this is a running back that was getting up to 9 targets a game earlier this season. That's come down. Over the past, I want to say month now, since the bye week, Najee Harris is actually averaging a little bit closer to 4.5 targets a game rather than being up there at 8 to 9. At one point, he was leading the NFL at the running back position in targets. That's no longer the running back that he is. We did move him down our rest of season rankings just slightly. Still going to be a mid running back 1 for us. Just a really tough matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. And now our next running back, also in a tough matchup, Cordell Patterson. With Patterson here, we kind of discussed this at length in the video earlier today, but he is very much matchup proof, to be completely honest, because he's not Damian Harris. He's not Nick Chubb. You're not having to rely on rushing efficiency from the offense and rushing touchdown upside. Rather, you're more so looking at the fact that with Cordell Patterson, he does have the upside just based on the receiver that he is, and not a receiver, the receiver that he is. This is a player that's come away with 41 receptions and 500 receiving yards so far this season. Going back to what we had against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, yes, it's a very tough matchup, a very tough run defense. Back in week 2, when he played this same defense, gosh dang, only 11 rushing yards for Cordell Patterson. It doesn't really matter, though. It doesn't matter if he's coming away with 7 targets, 5 receptions, 58 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown, getting a rushing touchdown at the same time, dropping 24 fantasy points last time we saw him against the Buccaneers. Not expecting that this week, probably a little bit closer to 15 or 16. I doubt he gets that second touchdown, but nonetheless, you can't start him as a running back 1. And now our next running back will be in a very nice matchup here. It'll be Darrell Henderson going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, with the Rams, yes, they've looked very bad over the past 2 weeks. And I swear to God, if I have to hear one more announcer tell me how good of a wide receiver Robert Woods is in the run blocking, I don't know what announcer said it on Sunday. I literally had to rewind it because they came out and said, Robert Woods is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. What is, why do these announcers love Robert Woods so much? I get it. Robert Woods is fantastic. Y'all know I like Robert. To call him the top 3 wide receiver in the NFL every single time you pull up a Rams game, all they're doing is drooling about Robert Woods in his run blocking. What the hell's going on? Nonetheless, with Darrell Henderson, this is still going to be a good offense, and it's going to be an offense that is leading the majority of the game, looking to lean on the run. With Darrell Henderson, I mean, he has been just a very safe lead running back as well in Los Angeles. He's the running back 13 so far this season on a points per game basis, coming off week 16 carries. 4 targets out of the backfield. He gets the receiving touchdown at the same time. We know that he has that red zone usage, and in a very prolific offense, you like Darrell Henderson here. And now our next running back in this tier will be James Robinson in that same game going up against the Rams. James Robinson, Darrell Henderson, they really are just so similar. The only difference is I would say James Robinson a little more talented, and at the same time, he's playing in a much worse offense, so I would actually lean on the offense with Darrell Henderson rather than the talent with James Robinson. But Robinson still is going to be getting the carries. He's still going to be getting the targets out of his backfield, and the usage in the red zone should be a week healthier here as well. If you're looking at this past week, he didn't really get the snaps in Jacksonville, but I think that's more so just dependent on that injury that he had with his heel. I think as he gets healthier, you're going to see that role expand yet again. Still will be a top 10 running back for us. And our last running back in this tier will be James Conner. With James Conner, not expecting Chase Edmonds back this week. If Edmonds finds his way back this week, then you'll have to lower James Conner drastically in these rankings. But until that happens, James Conner still a top 10 running back every single week. You're seeing his role just completely change. To go through and just look at what he's been as, a receiving running back. Let's look at this. Through the first 8 weeks this season, he had 5 total receptions. He was averaging half a reception a game. Since you had the Chase Edmonds injury, he's averaging 5 receptions. He's come out, and during that same time period, he's had almost 150 receiving yards, averaging almost 50 receiving yards a game. He has a receiving touchdown as well. So essentially, James Conner is adding on an additional 10 points per game just from the receiving aspect that he's had since Chase Edmonds left. That's the difference between James Conner being a running back 3 that's touchdown dependent, and all of a sudden James Conner being that elite bell cow running back in an offense that should have back DeAndre Hopkins and should have back Kyler Murray this week. So James Conner, honestly, I think you could make the argument to have him above both James Robinson and Darrell Henderson. I'm just recording this very early on in the week, so we don't necessarily know the health that we are going to have with Chase Edmonds. So I don't want to go out there and rank him as a running back that's going to be in a top 5 option for us. If Chase Edmonds is back, then everybody loses their mind. Now our next running back will be a tier below. Now that I say this out loud, it sounds like he should be above. James Robinson, Darrell Henderson. We're going to go Elijah Mitchell here. And you know what, Thomas, I apologize because right before we started recording this video, after we made these rankings, we read a report saying that Deebo Samuel was going to be missing this week. And if Deebo Samuel misses this week, I'm sorry, we're having to move Elijah Mitchell up. Let's move up Elijah Mitchell above James Robinson here at running back 8. And to speak on Elijah Mitchell just for a little bit, this past week, he comes out, erases Jeff Wilson in this offense. Yes, you get Deebo Samuel with a large rushing workload. Deebo Samuel's had 5 rushing touchdowns so far this season, which is just ridiculous. But Elijah Mitchell now getting used as a receiving running back. And at the same time with Elijah Mitchell here, this is a running back that if he is not having a secondary option in this offense, we know it's going to be one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL. I think you'd be very excited. Not a bad matchup at all against the Seattle Seahawks. I think you have to have Elijah Mitchell as a top 10 RB if we don't have a secondary running back here. And also at the same time, you're not really getting Deebo Samuel in this game. Now, our next running back will be a running back 12. And I guess this is going to kick off this tier. We're going to be going with Saquon Barkley here against the Miami Dolphins. Now, with Saquon Barkley, yes, a very disappointing running back week in and week out. And with Barkley, this is probably a spot where we're a little too aggressive on him. Nonetheless, I want to continue to expect that he is going to trend in the direction where he's able to get up to 80 to 90% of the snaps in his backfield. And if that's going to be the case, I think you just have to go through, assume great matchup against the Miami Dolphins. A game that is one of the very few ones that the New York Giants should be able to effectively move the ball down the field. So we'll have Saquon Barkley in that fringe running back 1, running back 2. And our last running back in this tier will be Ezekiel Elliott. Now with Zeke, I know that, a lot of people are going to be upset with him being this low. The issue is you just don't know what's going on with his knee. I mean, reports are really conflicting here. You had reports coming out on Sunday saying, okay, Ezekiel Elliott's going to get some rest. Ezekiel Elliott, they're going to allow Tony Pollard to go. And then a report came out a couple hours ago today saying, oh, no, Ezekiel Elliott, he may be playing on Thursday. Now, I'm just going into this saying it's probably going to be close to a 50-50 backfield split among Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. And if you're looking at what we've had over the past 2 weeks, essentially that's what it's been. Ezekiel, 9 carries. He's had 50 total rushing yards over the past 2 weeks. And this is a really tough matchup as well against the New Orleans Saints. So easily, I think Ezekiel Elliott can move ahead of Saquon Barkley later on this week once we get more reports coming out. I mean, right now I'm recording this on Monday. So we really are working with limited knowledge on how healthy Ezekiel Elliott will be for that Thursday night game. Of course, I'll be live streaming every single night this week to continuously give updates on the situation. So just make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to those live streams. And now let's go down a tier here and let's go over to David Montgomery as our running back 14 against the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, not a great matchup. And with David Montgomery, I know people got mad at us for not ranking him as a top 10 running back last week. I mean, David Montgomery is who David Montgomery is. Is a running back that's going to be seeing 80 to 90% of the snaps out of the backfield for the Chicago Bears. But at the end of the day, that's going to be a pretty bad offense. And I mean, at the same time, I mean, we know with David Montgomery, it's not like he is an extremely dynamic running back either. So it's a tough matchup, limited offense, and at the same time, it's not like you have a big playability with Montgomery. Now, what I will say is when you're getting to 80 to 90% of the snaps in your backfield, you just have a high floor in this scenario. Let's go to our next running back 15, which will be Clyde EdwardsHelaire. Going up against the Denver Broncos, not a great matchup, but with Clyde EdwardsHelaire, as we've said previously, you're expecting him to be able to get up to 65% of the snaps for this offense for the Kansas City Chiefs. You're expecting this Chiefs offense to continue to improve as the season goes on, especially coming out of their bye week. If they can just kind of tune some things up here, if they can limit the turnovers, they'll have more trips to the red zone. And with Clyde EdwardsHelaire, he should be a little bit more healthy. I think they're going to continue to phase out Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams will always have a role in this backfield, but I'm expecting this to go from a 50-50 split to Clyde EdwardsHelaire getting 65% of the snaps, Darrell Williams closer to about 35. So we're going to have Clyde EdwardsHelaire as a high-end running back too. In the last running back in this tier, no idea where to put him. Like I said, I'm recording this video on Monday, so this is just going to be essentially a placeholder. Mark Ingram. Don't know if we get Kamara. Don't know if we get Mark Ingram. Don't know if we get Tony Jones. I'll say if Alvin Kamara is the starting running back here going up against the Dallas Cowboys, you play Alvin Kamara. If it's Mark Ingram going up against the Dallas Cowboys and there's no Alvin Kamara, you play Mark Ingram. If both of them miss, you can't play anybody at all in New Orleans. It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, you've seen Mark Ingram be able to come out and handle very large workloads whenever you have not had Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. But it's a spot that we just kind of have to wait it out, essentially. And now our next running back is going to end up being Myles Gaskin. This is going to be a tier down. And with Myles Gaskin, as we've said, his role has just completely changed here when you remove Malcolm Brown from the offense. He's getting to 20 touches every single week. We called him a must-start running back last week. It's ugly when you go through and start him because he's not necessarily a talented running back. At the same time, it's not necessarily a great offense, but you're going through and you're playing him regardless because if he's coming away with, I mean, this past week, 16 carries and 2 receptions. The week before that, 23 carries. I mean, at the same time, 3 receptions. You just know he's going to have touchdown upside in that scenario. He comes away with 2 touchdowns this past week. It's going to actually be a much easier matchup as well against the New York Giants. So I'll have Myles Gaskin at running back 17. And our running back 18 will be Jamaal Williams here. And this is, of course, under the assumption that you don't have DeAndre Swift. We're looking at Jamaal Williams being the running back 1 in Detroit. We just simply don't know if that's going to be the case right now. We almost have to just ride it out with Jamaal Williams going up against the Minnesota Vikings. If he were to play, we're assuming that he's taking damn near every single snap, but it's a very bad offense. A running back that I would say he would essentially be like a poor man's version of David Montgomery. And our last running back in this tier, also another running back that was dealing with an injury in and out of the lineup this past week, Miles Sanders. I mean, with Miles Sanders, sounds like he should be good to go. Probably going to be playing in that committee alongside Boston Scott. It's a great matchup, however, against the New York Jets. So if Miles Sanders is playing, I think you could be excited about this Philadelphia Eagles offense, seeing a bounce back, and you could play Miles Sanders. Our running back 21, Josh Jacobs. Now, this Raiders offense looked pretty damn impressive. And considering how many best ball teams I drafted Josh Jacobs on in the 6th round, trust me, I am hoping we get some more spike weeks from Josh Jacobs this past week. 22 carries, 87 rushing attempts, a rushing touchdown at the same time. The issue with Jacobs is he's a little bit more matchup dependent than we would have with a running back like Cordell Patterson. And with Josh Jacobs, this will be a tough matchup against the Washington football team. Washington has been pretty good against the run so far this season. Like I said, I'm recording this before the game on Monday night. Maybe I just look like an idiot by the time this comes out. We will have Josh Jacobs at 21. The last running back of this tier will be Alex Collins, 22. I mean, this is going to be operating under the assumption you have no Travis Homer, you have no Rashad Penny, and it's only Alex Collins and DJ Dallas in this backfield. It'll be a very tough matchup against the 49ers. So honestly, I don't really care what Alex Collins does tonight. It's just going to be such a hard matchup to overcome. And now let's drop it down one last tier and let's do what we've done every single week. And it's so frustrating, so damn frustrating. Let's have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon back-to-back last tier. I mean, obviously two talented running backs. And if Javonte Williams can one day just see consistently 75% of the snaps in this backfield, I think that Javonte Williams will have that low-end running back one upside. I know a lot of people want to look at the snaps played this past week and go, Javonte Williams taking over. No, Melvin Gordon was dealing with the hip injury. Sounds like Melvin Gordon should be good to go this upcoming week. So if that's going to be the case, I think they're both low-end running back twos against the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock and supporting the channel. I really hope that this video helped you out. I really hope you got something from it. Please make sure you go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. When you do that, you get entered in to win a free Fantasy Flock Network hat every single video you leave that comment. And of course, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So please take advantage of that. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I hope I see you out in a live stream sometime soon.